Imagine waking up on a random Tuesday. No alarm clock panic. No rush to beat traffic. No boss on your mind. You check your investment account the same way you check the weather. Casual, habitual, almost boring. And then you notice something strange. Yesterday, while you were sitting in meetings, answering emails, and trading hours of your life for a paycheck, your portfolio quietly earned $412. After taxes, your job paid you $320 for that same day. Your money outworked you, not in theory, not someday, not in a motivational poster kind of way. It already happened. And this wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a lucky market spike. It wasn't a one-time coincidence. It's been happening more often lately. Your investments are starting to outperform your labor. You could skip work tomorrow and your money would still show up. Not enough to live on yet, but enough to make you pause. Because something just changed. There's a moment most people never realize exists. A moment when your income no longer depends on your body showing up somewhere. Your money starts carrying more weight than you do. This moment has a name. It's called the crossover point. And almost nobody reaches it. Most people don't even know it's possible. They work for 40 years. They collect paychecks. They hope Social Security shows up on time. And they slowly trade their future for the comfort of today. But there's another path. Not a hustle fantasy. Not a mindset slogan. Not a crypto miracle. A mathematical path. A slow, boring, brutally predictable path that leads to one outcome if you follow it long enough. Financial sovereignty. I spend a lot of time thinking about the invisible milestones that separate people who work for money from people whose money works for them. And the crossover point is the most important one, because it changes how you see every dollar you earn and every dollar you spend. Most financial advice lives in the shallow end. Save a little. Budget better. Cancel a few subscriptions. Stop buying expensive coffee. None of that is wrong, but none of it tells you when you win. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not mathematically. The crossover point does. It gives you a date on the calendar where work becomes optional. Not because you feel rich, but because the numbers say you are. And the best part? It's not vague, it's not philosophical, it's not reserved for millionaires. It's a formula? 2 lines, 1 crossing point. The first line is your expenses. Everything it costs you to exist. Housing, food, transportation, insurance, entertainment, life. For most American households, that's somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 per month. The second line is your investment income. Dividends, interest, capital gains, passive returns. For most people starting out, that line is flat. 0. Maybe $10 a month from a savings account. Not exactly freedom. But here's the part most people miss. Investment growth isn't linear. It's exponential. At first it feels useless, then it feels slow, then it feels noticeable, and eventually it feels unstoppable. Your investment income doesn't climb in a straight line. It curves upward, and one day that curve crosses your expense line. That's the crossover point. The moment your portfolio can fund your life without your job. Work becomes a choice, not a requirement. And this moment isn't theoretical, it's calculable. Let's put real numbers on it. If your annual expenses are $48,000, that's $4,000 per month. Using the standard 4% rule, you'd need about $1.2 million invested to sustainably generate that income. That's your crossover number. Not a dream, not a guess, a math problem. Now, most people hear that number and mentally check out. Millionaire. Impossible. Not for me. But the timeline matters more than the number. Let's say you're 30 years old. You make $60,000 a year. You invest $500 per month. Your average return is 8%. After 10 years, you have around $91,000. Your portfolio pays about $300 per month. Not impressive. Not life-changing. After 20 years, you have $275,000. Now you're earning around $900 per month passively. Still not freedom. After 25 years, $430,000. About $400 per month. The curve starts steepening. After 30 years, $670,000. Over $2,000 per month. You're more than halfway to freedom. At this pace, you cross 1.2 million around age 65. Traditional retirement. So what's the point? The point is this was the slow path. This was the version where you barely optimize anything. Because the crossover point isn't fixed, it moves. And you control both sides of the equation, your investments and your expenses. Most people only focus on the first. They try to earn more. They try to invest more. But reducing your expenses pulls the crossover point closer from both directions. If your expenses drop from $4,000 to $3,000 per month, your crossover number drops from $1.2 million to $900,000. That alone saves you years of working, and now you can invest more too. If you invest $1,000 per month instead of $500, you reach $860,000 in about 25 years. With $3,000 monthly expenses, you're financially independent at 55. 10 years of life bought back. Not with luck, with math. And if you get aggressive, house hacking, relocating, cutting your cost of living to $2,000 per month. Now your crossover number is $600,000. At $1,000 per month invested, you hit that in about 18 years. Late 40s. Freedom. The crossover point isn't rare, it's just uncomfortable. Because it requires delaying consumption in a culture built on instant gratification. And this is where psychology matters. At the beginning, every invested dollar feels like a sacrifice. The gains feel tiny. The progress feels invisible. But somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000, something shifts. Your money starts to feel alive. A 2% gain isn't pocket change anymore. It's thousands of dollars. You start to feel momentum. And before you even reach the crossover point, your relationship with work changes. Your investments cover your car payment, then your groceries, then most of your bills. Freedom isn't binary, it's a gradient. Each milestone gives you leverage, options, bargaining power, the ability to say no. There's even a point called coast fire. That's when your current investments, without adding another dollar, will grow into full financial independence by retirement age. For a 30-year-old aiming for $1.2 million by 60, that number is about $150,000. Hit that, and your future is mathematically locked in. Everything beyond that is acceleration. Most Americans never calculate any of this. They just hope. Hope is not a strategy. Numbers are. Every $1,000 invested buys you $40 per year forever. Every $100 cut from monthly expenses erases $30,000 from your freedom target. And every expensive lifestyle upgrade delays your escape. Money isn't just money, it's future time. When you buy a $30,000 car instead of a $15,000 one, you're not spending $15,000. You're spending years of your life because that money could have doubled and doubled again and bought you freedom. The crossover point makes that trade-off visible. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every financial decision becomes a question. Am I buying freedom or selling it? Most people will earn over $2 million in their lifetime and still depend on Social Security. Not because they were unlucky, but because every dollar that came in went straight back out. The crossover point offers a different path. Not easy, not glamorous, but clear. Save aggressively, invest consistently, reduce expenses intelligently. Let the math work. The lines will cross. They always do for those who stay in the game. And one random Tuesday, you'll wake up, check your accounts, and realize your money is finally working harder than you are. That's the moment everything changes. Most people think financial freedom is a personality trait. Some people are good with money. Some people aren't. Some people are lucky. Some people aren't. That story feels comforting because it removes responsibility. But the crossover point doesn't care about your personality. It only responds to math. Two numbers determine your future: how much you invest, how much you spend. Everything else is noise. Let's break down why this works even when the market looks chaotic. Compound growth isn't dramatic in the beginning. It's quiet, boring, almost disappointing. Your first $10,000 might take years to build. Your next $10,000 comes faster, then faster again. Not because you're smarter, because the engine is finally turning. Money grows money. At 8% per year, your investments double roughly every 9 years. That means $50,000 becomes $100,000, then $200,000, then $400,000, then $800,000 without you doing anything new. Just patience. But most people quit before the curve becomes visible. They expect linear progress, they get exponential reality. And exponential reality looks slow until it suddenly looks unstoppable. This is why the first decade feels pointless. Your portfolio moves up $300 one month, down $500 the next. Emotionally, it feels like chaos. Mathematically, it's progress. Because the goal isn't to feel rich. The goal is to close the gap between two lines. Expenses on one side, investment income on the other. Every dollar you invest pushes one line up. Every dollar you don't spend pulls the other line down. Most people only push, the smart ones also pull. If you cut $500 from your monthly expenses, you didn't just save $500. You erased $150,000 from your freedom target. That's leverage. The financial system is designed to reward long-term consistency, not brilliance. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need secret stocks. You don't need genius-level analysis. You need time, consistency, and emotional control. Because the hardest part isn't the math. It's not selling when everything feels broken. Market crashes feel like the end of the world, but historically they happen about every 4 years. The average drop is around 33%. This isn't failure, this is normal, and those crashes are already baked into the 8% long-term average. If you're still investing during downturns, you're not losing. You're buying future income at a discount. Every panic sell delays your crossover. Every calm buy accelerates it. Inflation doesn't destroy this strategy either. The 4% rule already accounts for it. Companies raise prices, earnings rise, stock values follow, your crossover number grows, your portfolio grows with it. They move together. The real risk isn't volatility. The real risk is never building an engine that can run without you. Because your body has an expiration date. Your energy declines, your health changes, your job options shrink. Investment income doesn't age. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't ask for weekends off. And once it covers your expenses, you own your time. But you don't need to wait for full freedom to feel the effects. When your portfolio covers your car payment, that's leverage. When it covers your groceries, that's breathing room. When it covers most of your bills, that's power. Freedom arrives in layers, not all at once. This is why many people reach coast fire without realizing it. They've already secured their future, but they're still sprinting like nothing changed. When your existing investments will grow into your crossover number without additional contributions, you've already won the long game. Everything after that is optional acceleration. Most people never run the numbers. They just drift. And drifting always leads to the same destination. Working until you can't. The crossover point gives you a map, a measurable target, a deadline you can calculate, and once you have a map, every decision becomes strategic. Should I upgrade my lifestyle or upgrade my freedom timeline? One feels good now. The other feels good forever. This isn't about deprivation, it's about intention. Spending isn't the enemy. Unconscious spending is. Money is either building your future or borrowing from it. There is no neutral. The system doesn't reward comfort. It rewards patience. It rewards consistency. It rewards people who understand that small sacrifices compound into massive leverage. And the math never lies. If you stay invested and keep your expenses under control, the lines will cross. Not because you were special, because you stayed in the game. Most people think the hardest part of building wealth is earning more money. It isn't. The hardest part is waiting. Waiting while your friends upgrade their lives faster than you. Waiting while your portfolio grows slower than your expectations. Waiting while the results feel invisible. The crossover point isn't just a financial milestone, it's a psychological one. Because before your money outperforms your labor still feels like your lifeline. Your job pays the bills. Your investments feel like a side project. But slowly the balance shifts. At first, your portfolio covers something small. A phone bill, a subscription. a tank of gas. It doesn't feel impressive. Then it covers something meaningful. Your car payment, your groceries, a chunk of your rent. Now you start to notice. And eventually it covers most of your life. That's when your mindset changes. You stop seeing your job as survival, you start seeing it as a tool, you gain the ability to say no. No to overtime, no to toxic managers, no to jobs that drain your soul. Not because you're rich, because you're independent. Freedom isn't a finish line, it's a sliding scale. Every dollar of passive income buys you a little more control over your time. And control over time is the real currency. This is why many people feel a mental shift around $50,000 to $100,000 invested. The numbers finally feel real. A 2% gain isn't pocket change anymore. It's thousands. Your money starts to feel like an engine instead of a savings account. You stop obsessing over daily fluctuations. You start thinking in decades. You stop reacting. You start planning. This is the moment where discipline becomes easier. Not because it's less uncomfortable, but because the reward becomes visible. Before this point, investing feels like deprivation. After this point, it feels like momentum, and momentum is addictive. The crossover point doesn't just change your finances, it changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who works for money. You start seeing yourself as someone who deploys capital. Your purchases feel different, your goals feel sharper, your time feels more valuable. Because now, every hour of your life has a measurable alternative value. You could work, or you could let your money work. Most people never reach this phase. They stay stuck in the consumption cycle. Earn, spend, repeat, comfortable but trapped. The crossover point breaks that loop. It introduces leverage, and leverage changes everything. When your investments pay part of your lifestyle, you don't feel desperate anymore. You feel optional, and optional is powerful. Because when money stops controlling your decisions, you start choosing based on values. You work because you want to. You rest because you choose to. You spend because it aligns with your priorities. Not because you're forced. This isn't about quitting work. It's about quitting dependency. The crossover point isn't a finish line, it's a shift in gravity. Life stops orbiting around your paycheck. It starts orbiting around your time. And once that shift happens, you don't think about money the same way again. You don't ask, can I afford this? You ask, is this worth delaying my freedom? Different question, different life. When people hear about financial independence, their first reaction isn't curiosity, it's fear. What if the market crashes? What about inflation? What if everything goes wrong? Those are reasonable questions, but they're aimed at the wrong target. Because the biggest risk in your financial life isn't volatility, it's dependency. Markets go up and down, jobs disappear, industries change, your body ages. Only one of those things is guaranteed. You. You are not permanent. Your earning power has a clock on it. Investment income doesn't. A market crash can shrink your portfolio. A career collapse can erase your income. One recovers automatically, the other doesn't. That's the difference. Market downturns feel dramatic because they're loud. Job dependency feels safe because it's familiar, but familiar doesn't mean secure. The average bear market happens every 4 years. The average decline is about 33%. This isn't an emergency. This is the system breathing. And those downturns are already included in long-term return averages. If you keep investing during crashes, you're not falling behind. You're accelerating. You're buying future income cheaper. The real danger isn't volatility, it's panic. Panic turns temporary losses into permanent ones. Panic delays your crossover point. Calm shortens it. Inflation is the other common fear, but inflation doesn't kill the crossover strategy, it's built into it. Companies raise prices, revenue rises, stock values follow, your expense line goes up. Your investment income line goes up with it. They move together. The real inflation threat isn't rising prices, it's stagnant assets. Cash loses value quietly. Investments fight back. Then there's the silent risk nobody plans for. Longevity. Living longer than your money lasts. That's the nightmare scenario. Not losing money in a crash, but running out of it when you're old. The crossover point isn't about being rich. It's about being resilient. It creates a system where your money can outlive your labor, where your income doesn't depend on your health, where your future isn't hostage to your job. That's real security. Most people think safety comes from stability, a steady paycheck, a predictable routine, a familiar life. But stability without leverage is fragile. The crossover point gives you leverage, and leverage gives you options. You can change careers, work less, take risks, say no, because your survival doesn't depend on your next paycheck. That's not luxury, that's independence. And independence is the only form of security that doesn't expire. Understanding the crossover point is interesting. Using it is powerful. Most people stop at awareness. They nod, they agree. They change nothing, because numbers don't change lives. Systems do. If you want the crossover point to move from concept to reality, you need a simple, brutal, honest plan. No apps, no gurus, no complicated spreadsheets, just 5 steps. Step 1. Calculate your real monthly expenses. Not what you think they are, not what you hope they are, what they actually are. 3 months of bank statements. Every transaction, every leak. Most people discover they're spending 15 to 20% more than they believed. That gap is the illusion tax. Step 2. Multiply that monthly number by 12. That's your annual cost of existence. Then multiply that by 25. That's your crossover number, the portfolio size that makes work optional. Write it down, make it real. Step 3. Check your current investment balance. Subtract it from your crossover number. That gap is your distance from freedom. Not emotional, not philosophical, mathematical. Step 4. Calculate how fast the gap is closing, how much you invest per month, what return you can realistically expect, how many years until the lines cross. This turns hope into a timeline. Step 5. Accelerate. This is where everything changes. You have 2 levers, income and expenses. Increase one, reduce the other. Both move your crossover point closer. Change jobs, build a skill, create a side income, or lower housing costs. Cut lifestyle inflation. Remove silent spending. Every $1,000 invested is $40 per year forever. Every $100 cut from monthly expenses erases $30,000 from your target. That's leverage. Most people chase income and ignore expenses. The fastest progress happens when you attack both. This isn't about living like a monk. It's about living intentionally. Spend on what matters, cut what doesn't, because every dollar has 2 costs: the money itself and the time it steals from your future freedom. A $30,000 car upgrade isn't just $15,000 more than the cheaper option. At 8% growth, that $15,000 becomes $30,000 in 9 years, $60,000 in 18 years, $120,000 in 27 years. That purchase didn't cost money. It cost time. Time you can never buy back. The crossover point makes this visible. It turns abstract trade-offs into measurable ones. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" You start asking, "Is this worth delaying my freedom?" That question changes behavior. Not through guilt, through clarity. Money becomes a tool, not a trap. A weapon for independence, not a chain of obligation. And once your system is in place, progress becomes inevitable. Not because life gets easier, but because your direction becomes clearer. Most people spend their entire lives running. Running toward the next paycheck. Running from the next bill. Running in circles. They earn millions over decades and still arrive at the same place. Dependent. Not because they failed. Because they never built an exit. The crossover point is that exit. Not flashy, not dramatic, just quiet financial gravity shifting in your favor. One random Tuesday, you wake up, you check your accounts, and for the first time, your money earned more than you did. No overtime, no meetings, no permission required. Just numbers doing their job. That's the moment everything changes. Not because you're rich, because you're free. Free to choose how you spend your time. Free to say no. Free to walk away. The average American will earn about $2 million over their working life. Most will retire with barely enough to survive. Not because they lacked opportunity, because every dollar that came in went straight back out. The crossover point offers a different ending. Not easy, not glamorous, but clear. Save aggressively. Invest consistently. Reduce expenses intelligently. Let the math work. The lines will cross. They always do for the people who stay in the game. And when they do, work becomes a choice, not a requirement. Money becomes a tool, not a master. Your time becomes yours again. That's the real reward, not wealth. Freedom.